Recently, I've been seeing a lot of posts about Fortune's Weave's possible release date and the possible Nintendo Direct in February. So, before those actually come to pass, I figure I would make a video about my hopes and dreams for Fortune's Weave. Starting off strong, I really want the Song of the Nabateans to be expanded. In Three Houses, that song does a really good job of being haunting, both contextually and with sonic motifs. I just really want it to be a full song, just like Lost in Thoughts or Heritors of Arcadia. I think having an expanded Song of the Nabateans would work really well with adult Sothis, considering she is the one who wrote the song. It's just a really cool song that deserves some extra love as we venture back into Fodlan. For my next point, I really hope they bring back personal spell lists. Although a lot of the spell lists in Three Houses are weirdly sparse for characters like Dimitri and Felix, it would still be a nice option for them. Like, for characters who aren't normally built to be magic units, they should have 3 spells for each category, just to give them something to work with, even if all the spells themselves are bad. That's part of the fun of character building. Spell lists give each unit something special to their name. And although I also like using tomes, especially something like Calamity Gate from Fates, I just really enjoy spell lists because they give a little bit of extra insight into characters. Like, Hilda being a character who constantly wants to be on the sidelines, despite being physically powerful, has Thoron and Bolting, which have increased range over other spells. Plus, having Seal Speed from her budding talent makes her a really fun mage despite not being built to be one. Still on the topic of spells, I hope each spell type continues to keep its unique identity. Like, fire spells are reliable, thunder spells trade some hit for range, crit, and might. Wind spells trade might for hit and crit. And in Three Houses, ice spells trade hit for might and crit. Engage also does something similar, but replaces ice with surge and doesn't even have a third tier for surge. That's beside the point. I hope that on top of having unique spell lists, the spells themselves continue to have traits unique to them. I do have another idea to mix tomes and unique spell lists, which is similar to the Three Hopes system. Oh my god, Three Hopes mention. Ah! I think there could be a basic E rank tome, like a training tome that anyone can use before they acquire their usual spells. And there could be special tomes like Satunger's Mystery that grants specific units access to a special spell, like Anye's Arrow. I think the training tome would be really helpful with grinding rakes, and the special tomes will give something special to the dev's little blorbos. Last thing about spells, I hope to bring back dark magic. I know in the trailer we saw some gambits and battalions, but I really hope they're more balanced this time around. I think Three Houses itself was somewhat balanced around the high stats that each battalion gave the units, but some of them are ridiculously overtuned or undertuned. If every unit could use Keyhole's Wyvern Company, they would, but no one is running the Gaspard Knights. Even comparing the Gaspard Knights to the King of Lions Corps, both having a -5 avoid penalty, the Gaspard Knights don't even come close to comparing. So I just hope that more battalions have some utility and that their impact on battles decreases slightly from Three Houses. I don't really have more to say about battalions, but I do have a lot more to say about skills. Firstly, personal skills. I think overall the cast of Three Houses have usable personal skills, but then you get something like Lockpick or Infirmary Master. Both of those skills have some utility, but will be outclassed by something more useful like Advocate or Watchful Eye. Like, there are definitely characters with bad personal skills that are worth using. Tamara from Engage is a pretty good unit, but her personal skill sucks. Or Kaze from Fates has a bad personal skill, but can be used for funny miracle proc shenanigans with Midori. If they're going to make bad personal skills, at least make them funny like Kaze's, or give them unique utility like all of the rally personals in Three Houses. One thing I hope Insys doesn't do with personal skills is what they did in Engage. Generally, units you get earlier in the game have worse personal skills, and units you get later in the game have better personal skills. See Clan versus Linden. The idea isn't bad, but it just feels bad to start the game with mid units and have to wait until the end to get the better ones. Part of the fun of getting units early in the game is that you get to train them and bond with them, so giving them bad personals just makes me want to use them less. I know I just said I didn't have more to say about battalions, but I want to talk about the skills that they get from raising their authority rank and not the gambits themselves. In Three Houses, the skills are just dupes of already existing skills, but with more conditions. So I'm hoping that Fortune's Weave creates unique battalion skills, or grants duplicate skills to units who would be hard-pressed to acquire them otherwise. An idea I came up with was Battalion Silence, where the equipped unit inflicts silence when an enemy initiates combat. I just want battalion skills to give some extra utility and uniqueness to units. Okay, I'm coming back to Lockpick, but not Ash's version of it. In previous Fire Emblem titles, where units had more strict skill/promotion trees, the classes with worse stats would get better skills, and the classes with better stats would get worse skills overall. I think a good example of this is Fate's Berserker versus Hero. Berserker gives you a massive passive crit bonus, and is a perfect min-maxed destroyer including Axe Fair. Hero takes a more lax approach by balancing stats and granting Soul for recovery and Axe Breaker for avoid. Both of these classes are good, especially if you're class dipping, but Berserker is better stat-wise, so debatably worse skills, while Hero has worse stats but better skills. So where am I going with this? The free reclassing nature of Three Houses lets units class dip and get any skill they could want, and not really have to suffer for it like one might in previous games. So I would like to see a more class balancing in terms of skills. I will talk about class balancing as well, so hold on to that. The 4 sword classes available for late game in Three Houses, Hero, Swordmaster, Assassin, and Mortal Savant, all grant different skills varying in usefulness. Assassin comes with Lockpick as part of its base kit, so a character like Ash would have a redundant skill with no extra benefit. What I would like to see going forward is that old class design of bad or middling skills for good classes, and better skills on bad or middling classes. It incentivizes players to build creatively, and maybe find uses for more classes other than Wyverns. Plus, I want to see class base kits not have overlapping skills with units' personals, like Ash. Moving away from skills, I want to talk about combat arts. In the trailer, it looks like there's going to be combat arts of some sort, but here are some things I'm hoping for. I'd say most combat arts in Three Houses are usable, so I hope that trend of generally balanced art continues. I think having 1 or 2 generic arts for all units is a good idea too, and allows all units to occupy any class or weapon type. However, I would like to see more units get 1 or 2 special combat arts. Like, Linhardt doesn't have any special arts, which makes sense since he doesn't have any proficiencies in any weapons, but I think the devs could have given him Soul Blade and called it a day. The point here is that I hope that units who, in spite of not having weapon proficiencies, can still get some unique arts. Sort of on the topic of combat arts, I want to move into budding talents. This will also sum up my thoughts on skills. I think budding talents are a really fun addition to Fire Emblem because it's another shiny badge. It adds to character depth and gives these characters something new to add to their kit. For the budding talents that are combat arts, I feel like most units who get them would benefit from something else. Like, Claude getting Diamond Axe is kinda boring, but Marianne getting Frozen Lance is peak. Magic combat arts for magic leaning units work really well, but giving physical units another combat art that doesn't help all that much sort of detracts from the joy of budding talents. I understand that you can get these combat arts pretty early, so the devs didn't want to make them busted, but considering Raging Storm exists, they could have gone a little harder with the budding talents. As for the budding talent skills, they're much better overall. However, there is one awful standout that I would be remiss not to mention. Seal Movement, Dimitri's skill from training his writing. It only reduces an enemy's move by 1, which is insignificant, especially when compared to Banshee, a spell that reduces move by 5. Plus, with 3 houses seals ending at the end of a round, it doesn't do much in the long run either. That is to say, all budding talents should be equally useful if they return. On the topic of seals, I want to move into some more subtle game mechanics. Seal skills can be split up into two categories: Fates' waning seals and Three Houses' disappearing seals. So, in Fates, when a unit's stat is sealed or debuffed by a skill or shuriken, the initial stat decrease becomes weaker over a few turns. For example, if a shuriken drops a unit's defense by 4 points, it will take 4 turns to return to normal. For Three Houses, a seal skill will only drop a unit's stats until the end of a round. What I mean by round is one player phase and then one enemy phase. This distinction is important because you can seal an enemy's stats on enemy phase, but when player phase comes by, the seal will have disappeared, thus disappearing seals. I prefer the disappearing seals of Three Houses, but I really hope an enemy sealed on enemy phase would keep the debuff until the end of the following turn, as opposed to the end of the round. It would give seals more of a defensive merit since they are mostly used to soften enemies for an easier kill. Moving on, although poison has always been a pretty mediocre status in Fire Emblem, I think there's a way to make it more interesting. It should have a toxic effect like in Pokemon. Rather than doing flat damage every turn, it gets increasingly more painful unless cured with an antitoxin or restore. I would also give it the ability to kill. This does not extend to Poison Strike or any similar skills, just poison. Our next mechanic is forging. I love the simplicity of Three Houses' forging system. Like, yes, most weapons should have a basic form and a plus form. It just feels better than other forging systems that let you go up to 7 forges, or allow you to change might, hit, or crit. Please go back to the Three Houses forging system. I did enjoy engages, but I just felt like I needed to have all my weapons inscribed and forged to bother using them, otherwise I felt like I wasn't playing my best, and that makes me sad. Alrighty, I have a few more points to make. I really want supports to be good again. To be fair, Engage has some good supports, but a lot of them feel really shallow and are generally shorter than Three Houses supports. That's not to say that length means quality, but I just want to see better support writing. On the topic of characters themselves, I want to see more diversity. I am already really excited for the skin colors / ethnic diversity of the characters from the trailer. Like, the main playable character has warm toned skin and textured hair. That's already a win. But I'm greedy, so I want more. I want more fat characters whose weight isn't treated as a joke or a problem to be overcome. I want morally gray characters, even if that means more Edelgard discourse. I want more characters who aren't constantly glazing the player character, and who have differing ideals. I want more characters who are over 40. Shit, even over 30 would be good. I want to see fewer child units. As much as I love trainees, in games where there's romance options like I'm hoping for, it's weird to have child units be marryable. And yes, I do want S supports back, but I want them to be achievable during the campaign, as opposed to only occurring at the end of the game. There is something fun about finding out which characters end up together in the Three Houses credits, but I prefer being able to matchmake earlier. Even if there are no in-battle buffs, as long as there's good supports and a little something extra like married characters appearing at base together would be nice. And I want more gay pairings. I do enjoy when there's a lot of bi or pan options, but there are definitely some characters who should be less fluid in their sexuality / romantic attractions. A good example would be Leon from Shadows of Valentia. Although there aren't any paired endings in that game, he's still a gay character who only ever shows interest in men. So, more of that please. In an ideal world, there wouldn't be any DLC for this game, and it would drop with everything at base. However, Intelligent Systems hasn't done that for a Fire Emblem game since the DS era, I think. So, in the event that there is DLC for Fortune's Weave, I want a couple things. I want the DLC to be well designed. I don't think it's a hot take to say the Engage DLC story was okay, but that the actual gameplay was awful. Make a DLC story worth playing. And don't make it a barricade to get extra things in-game, like Engage. I should not be forced to play through the DLC if I want to recruit my favorite twink. Three Houses did this sort of well, where you only have to complete the Ashen Wolves route once in order to unlock special features in base game, regardless of New Game Plus or not. And I actually did enjoy the Ashen Wolves route, minus the gameplay and the massive waves of reinforcements. So even something of that caliber would be acceptable, I guess. I'm hoping for the DLC to drop all at once, so it's not drip fed like the 3DS era. I'm not entirely opposed to DLC, but in years past, not even just with Fire Emblem, it's felt really scummy, so I just hope it's reasonable. Anyway, just some closing thoughts. I'm really excited for Fortune's Weave. It already looks great so far. I hope it brings back some cool mechanics like unique spell lists and simple forges, and I hope it shies away from some of Engage's mistakes. This is actually my first time making a scripted video like this, so I hope I did alright. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and I hope to see you again.